Okay, class, we are on to 9.5. We're going to factor x squared plus bx plus c. All right, so let us go ahead and I'll write it down. So it could be something like x squared plus 11x plus 18. All right, so this is a huge concept, what I'm teaching you now. And you're going to have to know this because it comes up again and again and again. So before you start factoring, I just want you to know what A, B, and C is, because eventually we're going to do other methods. So you have to understand that A is the number in front of x squared, and A here is 1. B is 11. And C is 18. Okay? For this lesson, you're not so much going to use that, but then we're going to be factoring by a different method later on called using the quadratic formula. I was trying to think, there's so many different ways to do it. I was like, which is the one with the formula? It's a quadratic formula, so knowing A, B, and C is a good thing because you're going to need to. But today we're going to start by factoring. So what we're doing is we're doing the opposite, where they gave you two factors like this, and you set them equal to 0 and you solved. Now instead of giving you the two factors like this, they give you the polynomial, a trinomial, and they want you to find these two factors. So it's called the reverse. So you're working backwards, but there's a way to solve these. So one of the most important things is you have to know what the signs of the factors are going to be. So the way that you tell this is you have to have it in descending order first, which is this. Then you look at the last sign. If the last sign is positive, so you want to write this down because it's really important. If the last sign is positive, then both signs will be the same as the first. So let me explain that to you. Okay? So we've made sure it's in the right form, ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay? Then we look here and we can see that it's a plus at the last sign. So then we look at the first sign, that's what it means. And whatever the first sign is, you're going to have two of those. So if I write my factors right here, I know I've got two pluses, so it helps. And now, what you want to do is realize that x squared breaks up into x and x. So we've started out with fairly simple ones. And this just takes a lot of practice. We're going to spend time factoring because it's huge. You're going to have to do this in geometry and algebra 2 and pre-calculus. So slopes and lines are a big deal, and knowing exponents and factoring is also something you see a ton. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to find factors that multiply. So this is what you're looking at, to give you 18, but then add to give you 11. So when you start and the first one's just a 1, because A is a 1, then that's the easiest type, all right? So you look at factors of 18. So I'm just going to go through them so show you exactly what you're doing when you first start out. So 18 could be 9 and 2. It could be 18 and 1. And it can be 6 and 3. So this is multiplication, not a decimal. That's why I'm making it dark, all right? So looking at those factors, only one of those factors multiply to give you 18, but add to give you 11. So 9 times 2 gives you 18, and 9 plus 2 gives you 11. 18 times 1 is 18, and 18 plus 1, it gives you 19. 6 times 3 is 18, but 6 plus 3 gives you 9. So the correct answer, obviously you can see, is it has to be 9 and 2. 9 and 2 give you, and you make the middle term by the outer and the inner. So look what I'm doing. X times 2 is 2x. 9 times x is 9x, and they're both positive, so if you add them together you get 11x. So that's how you're going to check. I know there seems a lot to it, but I'm showing it to you when it's easy, because the next section we're not going to start with a 1, we might have a 5 or a 2, so you have to understand how you get this. Alright, so let's try another example. Say I've got a squared plus 7a plus 10. Alright, so it is in descending order. So I want to find the factors. I know that this is a plus, so then both signs are going to be 2 positives. So I can go ahead and do that. And I know a squared is just a times a, from understanding exponents, from what you've learned before. And I know both signs are plus, so I can put that in there. 10 is 10 times 1 or 5 times 2, which is the only one that adds together to give you the 7. It's going to be 5 and 2. And you check. The way you check is by foiling. Remember, you learned this already. A times a gives you the a squared. A times 2 gives you the 2a. 5 times a gives you the 5a. And 5 times 2 gives you the 10. So this is how you can check 100% that you're right. Combine those middle terms and you get back a squared plus 7a plus 10. All it is multiplying and adding, and you can multiply and add. And if you can do that, then you can factor. So you've seen where they're both pluses. Alright, so now I'm going to show you where they're the same sign, but now we have 2 negatives. So let's go ahead and look at that real quick. Next one under here, let me write a fresh example. N squared minus 6n plus 8. So always check, is it in descending order? It is. This is a plus, so that tells me same signs. So I'm writing everything until you get used to it. Then I look here, and what are both signs going to be? The plus tells me same signs. When I look to my first signs, they tell me what they're both going to be. Now instead of having 2 pluses like I had here, same signs, I've got 2 positives. I've got same signs, but here I've got 2 negatives. So again, I can do my parentheses. I can put an n, because n squared is n times n, minus n minus. So we're going to do the same thing. We need factors of 8 that will give me negative 6. So we're going to say 8 times 1, 4 times 2. Okay, those are the only ones. It's good when you have, this 8 isn't prime, but whenever you have prime numbers when you're factoring, it's good, because a prime number is a number which you've learned that it's just multiplied by 1. So 11 would be prime, and the only factors for 11 are 11 times 1. But 12, you have a lot of choices. That's called a composite number, where you have more than one choice. So when you're factoring, prime numbers are great, or numbers that don't have a lot of factors. So the only one that's going to give us a negative 6 is going to be negative 4 and negative 2. Remember, they're both the same sign, so negative 4 and negative 2 give us that negative 6. So you check n times n gives me the n squared. Really what I'm checking for is this here. So the outer and inner terms, n times negative 2 gives me negative 2n. Negative 4 times n is negative 4n. Add them together, negative 2n and negative 4n, and I get the negative 6n. Okay? And you know at the end, negative 4 times negative 2 gives me the plus 8. So by foiling, you can check, all right? So you can see. Let's do one more where they're both negative. Hopefully you can see this. Let me just make sure. Sometimes with the lighting, I have to change it up a little bit. Nope, don't want to rotate here. Okay, so let me see, I think this might be a little better. All right, so here is an example where you're going to have two negatives again. So t squared minus 8t plus 12. All right, so it's written in descending order. The plus here tells me same signs. The minus tells me they're going to be two negatives. So I'm going to go ahead and do t and t. Then factors of 12 are 12 times 1, 6 times 2, 4 times 3, until you get better at it. Some people catch on to this real quick and they don't need to write them out, and that's great if you do. But at the beginning, if you need to write them out and see, that's fine too. So I believe that's all the factors that give us 12. So the one that obviously, they're both going to be minus here, they're going to add together to give us 8, has to be negative 6 and negative 2. And like I said, you can check by foiling everything out and seeing if that works. So I'm going to autofocus this a little bit better. It just seems sometimes it comes a little bit clearer when you do that, so forgive me, sometimes I have to do that. I want to make sure that you see it very well. So you've done where they're the same signs, okay? So the same signs are told by the last sign if it's a positive. So you definitely need to write that down and understand. So the very last thing is when we have different signs. So here is an example of when your signs are going to be different. Actually, I wrote the same one down, sorry, wrong one. Here we go. Y squared plus 2y minus 15. Okay, so the way that you tell is by the last sign right here. But the last sign is a negative. If you have a negative here, that means one of the signs is going to be positive and one's negative. And you don't know which one that is until I show you. All right, so we are going to do the parentheses. We know y squared is y and y, but I'm not going to put my plus and minus yet. So I'm going to show you how you can tell. 15, write down the factors, 15 times 1, 5 times 3, and that's it. So it's good when you don't have a ton of choices, it goes a lot quicker. So which is the only one, if one is a plus and one is a minus, that you could possibly make 2? Hopefully you see it's 5 and 3. All right, so the way that you tell which is the positive and which is a negative, see how I have a plus 2y? That means the bigger number has to be the positive. So it would be a positive 5y and a minus 3y would give me 2y. So then I write the 5 and the 3, and then I assign the plus to the 5 and the minus to the 3. And that's how you tell. And if you want to check, y times y is y squared. Y times negative 3 is negative 3y. 5 times y is plus 5y. And 5 times negative 3 is minus 15. And then combine like terms. Y squared, 5y minus 3y is plus 2y minus 15. So you got back exactly what you had. All right, so remember, you foil. You learned how to foil. That's why you learned how to multiply and foil, so you can check back and see if you're doing it right. Okay? So let's do another one that is going to have different signs. All right, I'm looking here. I've got some examples. Okay, here's one. N squared minus 7n minus 30. All right, so I know that this is a negative, so one of my signs is positive and one's is negative. I call them opposite signs. You're going to get opposite signs, okay? Because when you multiply a positive times a negative, it gives you, that's the only way you're going to get a negative, okay? So let's go ahead and do our factors, our parentheses. N squared is going to be n and n. 30 has 30 times 1. It's rarely that. That happens once in a while. 10 times 3, 5 times 6, I think that's it. Oh, 2 times 15, see, you can have a lot of factors on some of them. I believe that's it. So, which one is the only one with opposite signs can make a negative 7? So, can 15 and 2 give you a 7? No. 30 and 1 cannot, opposite signs. 5 and 6 cannot if they're opposite signs. The only one that could give you a negative 7 is 10 and 3. So out here is a 10 and that's a 3. 10 is bigger than 3, and remember the middle sign is a negative, so it has to be negative 10, positive 3. So then write it in here, and it does not matter which way you write. You could say n plus 3 first and n minus 10 second. That is fine. It does not matter. And then you can FOIL it and check it until you get more and more proficient at it. So the last thing we're going to do is combine everything now instead of equal to 0. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw one up. X squared plus 3x equals 18. So now you have an equal sign. None of the others had an equal sign. So all you do is find the factors, these are factors, and you leave them like that. But when it has an equal sign, you have to find the factors and then you have to find the solutions. You're setting them equal to 0 like you've been doing before. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and bring it over and set it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 18 from both sides. I've got x squared plus 3x minus 18 equals 0. Alright, then I'm going to put my two factors and I'm going to set them equal to 0 because I'm not going to leave the answer as factors. Now I have to find the actual solutions like 6, negative 5. They want the actual solutions. So I'm going to do the same thing I did. 18 times 1, 6 times 3, 9 times 2. I think that's all of them. Then I look here, they're in descending order. A negative means one sign is positive and one is negative. So I do that while I'm learning. So what's the only one with one being a plus and one being a minus, and I've got a plus 3. So the bigger number has to be a plus. So 18 minus 1 gives me 17. It is not that. See, 9 is bigger than 2, so it'd be plus 9 minus 2 gives me 7. That's not what I'm looking for. Plus 6 minus 3 gives me 3. So there is your answer right there. So x is x and x, and it does not matter which one I write. I'm going to put minus 3 first, plus 6. It does not matter. What matters is that you have the right factors with the right signs. That's what matters. And that now you solve it. So don't leave it as factors. They actually want you to solve it. So x minus 3 equals 0. X plus 6 equals 0. Add 3. So x equals 3. Subtract 6. X equals negative 6. So those are your two solutions. So I'm going to do one. I'm looking in homework for something that has a little bit more work to it. One last one. So if you have ones like that on homework, you have no problem. When I say homework, I mean from the book, not the worksheet that I'm giving you. All right, so let's try this. B squared plus 5 equals 8b minus 10. I like this one. We want it to look like this, remember? This is a quadratic, x. This is a quadratic. Ax squared plus bx plus c. And here we've set it equal to 0. That's fine over here. So it needs to look like that. So I've got my squared. I need everything on this side. And then I need to rearrange it so it looks like this. So I'm going to subtract 8b and bring it over here. Okay? So then I'm going to write b squared minus 8b plus 5. I realize I'm trying to write so that you can see me right down here. Let's make it bigger. This is gone equals negative 10. I don't want to cover it as I'm doing it. Okay, and the reason I wrote the b here in front of the plus 5 is because you can see that the constant, the numbers by itself. Now I'm going to add 10, and I'm going to add 10. Okay, so this is gone. So now I've got b squared minus 8b. 5 plus 10 is 15 equals 0. So the only thing you have to do is a little bit of work before to rearrange it and make sure it looks like this right here. Okay, using my little pointer here. So now I have it in the correct way. Then I can judge. A plus here means same signs, and then both the signs are going to be negative. So I go ahead and do my little factors here and set them equal to 0. So I've got a b and a b, both going to be minus, and then hopefully you can see now it's not 15 and 1. Let's do 5 and 3, that's my only choice, and negative 5 and negative 3 will add together to give me a negative 8, so there you go. Okay, take the factors now because it's set equal to 0 and find the solutions. So b minus 5 equals 0, b minus 3 equals 0, add 5, add 5. So b equals 5 and b equals 3. So those are your two solutions. So this is just practicing and remembering the rules. So you remember plus at the end means two of the same signs. Look to the first sign to see what they're both going to be. A negative at the end for C means opposite signs. One's a plus, one's a minus. Then you look at the first sign. If it's a plus, the bigger number will be a plus. If it's a minus, the bigger number will be a minus. So it is a huge concept, so I've spent a little bit more time because you really have to understand this. So understand this before we move on to 9.6. Okay guys, God bless.